Hello, everyone. This is the second edition of the interview series, which still does not have a name as of right now. Big Rat 310 here with my guest this week.
I'm InstantClassic8. Hello, Big Rat 310 subscribers and viewers and listeners and everybody else involved.
Thank you for that introduction. My good friend Brandon here has agreed to come on the show, and I greatly appreciate it. And how's your day been, Brandon?
Tired. It's 1:30 a.m. right now, and I've had a very long day, but it's all good. It's the weekend. I have no reason to complain.
Thank God it's Friday. All right. So to get the ball rolling, let me ask you with the perennial question that I have to ask. What got you into pro wrestling?
It's kind of weird. I was actually a fan of pro wrestling before I even watched a match.
Wow.
When I was a kid, I was really into like action and fighting. So, all the time, like, Christmas and birthday, I always begged my parents for, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the action figures, or, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers action figures. That's all I cared about. That's all I wanted. Anything to do with fighting, that video games, everything, it had to be something fighting or action related. And when it basically came down, when everything was exhausted, well, I had every single toy known to man, we had to switch to something else. And that's when my parents, I think it was one Christmas, I opened up a gift and I had a WCW ring, and I opened up some more gifts, and there was some figures. There was like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, and I think I had a Undertaker one in there as well.
Wow.
So, and this is when Hulk, I didn't know at the time, but this is when Hogan and Savage were in WCW. But I just had a bunch of things. They also got me a wrestling buddy, if you guys remember those. I had a Hulk Hogan and Macho Man wrestling buddy, and I played with those all the time. And it just, like I said, it just formed from there. I loved wrestling, but I had never seen the match. And it didn't get down to the point where I didn't see a match until, God, I want to say 1995, late 1995. The only reason why I really started watching wrestling is because I wanted to fit in with my friends. All my friends were watching wrestling, and they were really into like Nitro, because Nitro was like brand new at the time, and it came on early 8 o'clock and everything. So my friends were all in Nitro. I didn't know anything about it. I knew who Hogan and Savage. I knew these guys were big names. I just had never seen them wrestle before, and because I wanted to be cool, I started watching it as well, and I mean, one thing led to another, and here I am, 24 years old, still watching professional wrestling. So,
Well, I was curious, why did your parents did they get you the figures in the WCW ring because they just you were an action fan and they thought you would enjoy it, or was there any? All right,
it's basically because they know what wrestling is, and they know it's like action and everything, and they think I was a 6-7-year-old kid, full of energy. They would think that I would love wrestling, even though I had never seen it before. So they just got me this stuff, and I started to play around with it. I used like Hulk Hogan versus like Raphael from Ninja Turtles, and just had like all these dream matches in my head, and I just had a ball with it. And like I said, once I started watching it and become familiar with it, I fell in love with it, and I just have a passion for it like nothing else.
And here we are today.
Yep.
Now the other perennial question that I have to ask: well, how did you get into YouTube?
I got into YouTube. Well, of course, I've been using YouTube for long, but as far as wrestling and wrestling related videos, I've been watching, just like old WWF and WWE, WCW clips for a while, but I didn't start watching like people making videos, the YWC, if you want to call it. I didn't start watching that until about mid 2007. I was in my dorm room. This was when I was at ODU in my sophomore year, and I was watching Raw, and I think this episode of Raw had like people getting laid out backstage, like Randy Orton was getting laid out, and Edge was getting laid out, and Shawn Michaels,
the great
everything was going on. Yeah, and no one knew what was going on, and Kennedy came out, and people thought it was him, and people thought John Cena were going heel, and it was just so exciting. And then at the end of the show, they bring out the Great Khali, and it's just like this huge. Like the definition of Buzz Killington was that night, Khali coming out, and you just felt sick. So like the next day, I just did a search. I was like, I think I just did a search for WWE sucks. So I'm like, I know people got to be talking about this. And I came across this kid's video. I don't even remember his name, but he was making a response to two guys who happened to be Bill and Doug, And I watched this kid's video, and he was just going off about everything. I'm like, wow, it's not that bad, but I see he has some points. And then, like I said, he linked his video to Bill and Doug, and that's when I watched theirs. And I'm like, these guys, while I agree with some of the things they have to say, everything that they say is not true. And I just started watching videos. I watched a lot of their videos. I watched, of course, watched a lot of Truth Slayer as well. He's actually a good friend of mine, and I watched a lot of Crazy Mike 1706. I watched a lot of his videos, and I really enjoyed them. And it got to the point where it was like a lot of, I don't want to say TNA bashing because they kind of deserved it, but a lot of people giving TNA too much crap, and not seeing that they had some good wrestling going on. And that's when I decided to step up. I think it was like July or August of 2007 where I made my first video. It wasn't TNA related, but I knew I was going to come around to that point where I wanted to talk about them. And it just grew from there. And like I said, I'm still making videos. So
now, then maybe not so much, actually not at all now, but when you first started, like you just mentioned, you were one of those, I wouldn't say you were one of those guys that tried to give TNA some props, try to tell people, it's not that bad. I want to know, like, when did you start with that? When did TNA really start becoming that promotion for you, where you really were like, this is something special?
I discovered TNA, I think it was just like an afternoon or something. I think I was a senior in high school, and I was just flipping channels, and it was like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I think I turned to Fox Sports Net, and I saw this, these guys wrestling in this ring. I'm like, what is this? Of course, it's all, nothing's familiar to me. So I'm just like, what is this? I watched it for like a minute, and then I just turned away from it. I'm just like, okay, it's whatever. And then, right around 2005, 2006 is when I started to actually use the internet to find information out about wrestling. The spoilers, the dirt sheets, if you want to call it that. And I've always been a big fan of Edge and Christian. They're my favorite tag team in wrestling. And Christian being one of my favorite wrestlers, he had left the WWE, but I did not know that he went to TNA until I started to go on these websites, and that's when they said Christian was on TNA, and I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. I'll take a look at it, and I think I stayed up one night because this is when TNA still came on at 11 o'clock on Saturdays, and I stayed up, and I was like, this isn't that bad. So I never became a full fan, but just on and off, I would just check in, just see what's going on. And everyone knows that, maybe not number one, but number two, my favorite wrestler of all time is Kurt Angle. And when he left WWE and then I found out he was going to TNA, that's when I just full-blown just started watching TNA. I didn't really quit on WWE. I just started watching TNA a lot. And then I ordered that was the first pay-per-view I ordered from TNA was Genesis. And I saw that match he had with Samoa Joe, and I was just like, okay, this is the promotion I like. They're giving me all this wrestling and everything, all these new guys I'm finding out about. This is the new deal. I'm going to watch it. And it just blossomed from there. Of course, it's deflated now, and I don't even watch TNA. But I don't regret, spending my money on TNA in the past. I definitely, the voice that I presented myself with on YouTube is definitely something I'm proud of. I'm proud of the fact that I didn't follow the quote-unquote company line with YouTube and just completely trash it just because that was the cool thing to did. I'm the one that had a voice and said, you know what? Yeah, the stuff was bad. Maybe Pac-Man Jones signing is not the coolest thing in the world, but, they still have some good wrestling. You got to just see it for that. And, because 2007 was a pretty down year for wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
Even though I did, find out about Ring of Honor in 2007, but as far as mainstream, it was down in the hole. So TNA, it was just kind of that escape where it kind of helped me balance out the happiness with the sadness that I had with pro wrestling.
So if Kurt Angle was your number two, does that mean HBK was your number one?
Absolutely. HBK is number one.
And when you bought that TNA pay-per-view with Genesis 2006, did from that point until early 2007, did your WWE watching severely go down? Or is it still, still there a little bit?
No, I think it was June of 2006. It was the only break that I've ever taken from WWE since I started watching. It was the return of DX. I won't lie, that first night that they came back, I was so excited. I remember I had everything recorded, and I kept watching it over and over. I was just so excited. Kayfabe-wise, to see that Shawn Michaels and Triple H were working together again. And, of course, DX being a big part of my childhood and all the crazy things that they did, it was exciting to know that stuff, well, it was, kind of tamed down, but most of that stuff was back. And I was really excited. And then, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead, and I see what they're doing, and Vince McMahon is all over the TV, and they're doing all these goofy skits, and then the what is it? The Spirit Squad is there, and it's just like, oh, I just can't take it anymore. Of course, Cena all over the TV, Dave Bautista. Even though I like him now, I hated him back then. Well, I hated the wrestler, not the guy. And he was all over the TV, and I was just like, I just can't do it anymore. And I just stopped watching from that point on, and I didn't pick it up until I think about 2 or 3 weeks before WrestleMania is when I started watching it again. I watched the Royal Rumble, of course, but as far as like watching Raw and SmackDown, I just left it alone. I was strictly TNA.
Wow. All right, so you can see why the TNA was such a big, important thing in your life at that time. Now, because you always were, I remember from like some of your 2008 stuff, you still were, even though the product was still slipping, you still were that fan. And then what was it that really, like when you said, I'm done, I can't be this voice anymore for this company?
For TNA. Yeah. We're talking about Bound for Glory 2008. This was for the third year in a row that Sting won the title.
Yep.
And the fact that they took it off Joe, who, once Angle came into the picture of TNA, Joe's, his stardom and his level just, it slowly diminished. They still kept him near the top, but it just slowly diminished. And then finally they gave him the title at Lockdown 08, and I was so happy. And I said, okay, there's a rebuild of Samoa Joe. They're gonna do good things with him. I can feel it. They put him in. I think they put him in the match with Scott Steiner and Kaz one month.
Yeah.
And then he was involved in like this just goofy King of the Mountain match. With just like these random Joes in there. And then they gave him the feud with Booker T. I mean, I love Booker T, but they gave him the feud with Booker T that did nothing at all for him.
Hurt him.
And then here comes Sting, and Sting beats him for the title, and I'm done. From that point, what was it, October 2008 until November 2009, I did not watch TNA at all. I watched one show, which was Destination X 2009, which I fully regret. But that was the only show for that whole year that I watched. I just completely gave up. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I respect Sting, but him as champion again, beating Samoa Joe, I just can't do it. So they can't get my money, they can't get my time of day, and that's that.
And so you quit for a whole year. Why did you go back?
Because I heard through the grapevine from YouTube that what was it? I want to say Turning Point.
Oh yeah,
Turning Point was coming around. Nigel was in TNA. Nigel being I'm a huge fan of Nigel, and also the fact that they did the triple threat match: Samoa Joe, Chris Daniels, and AJ Styles. I wanted to see that, and it definitely, that show delivered, and I streamed it that night because I really didn't have enough courage that they pull it off, but they did. So the next day I ordered it on pay-per-view, and yeah, that was a tremendous show. And then I think I was back on the kind of the TNA bandwagon, if you want to say, for like the next few months. I think they did like AJ and Daniels like the month after.
Yeah.
And then, the beginning of the year, the Hogan thing happened, and, I was a little upset about that. Not as far as Hogan, because I respect and love Hogan, but just him coming into TNA, I was not excited about that at all. But he came in there. That was whatever what it was, and they were still doing Kurt Angle and AJ Styles, which has been one of my favorite matches that TNA has ever put on, and I was still excited about that. But just from time has gone on, and it's just I don't know. Of course, we all know what they have to do. They have to change some things around, but it's just they're not doing enough to get my attention. I put it on my DVR every week, but I never watch it. I just delete it every week. I think I've watched maybe 3 episodes of Impact this entire year. Most of it having to do with Destination X. But other than that, I can't give them the time of the day until they fix their ways, and I really don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Do you think that? I know you said you just said you didn't think it would happen anytime soon. Do you think that there is a specific person that can turn this all around?
Other than Russo being the person that can leave and everything turn around, not necessarily, because there's so many factors. I mean, TNA, they have the talent in there. while every single piece of talent is not the greatest. I mean, they have like Crimson, who's like green as grass, and some other guys in there, but they have the core talent. One of the best talent rosters in all of wrestling.
Yes,
we've been saying that for years that they've had that. Even though they dropped a few guys like Jay Lethal and some other guys as well, they still have a really, really great roster. But if they can get the people behind the scenes who can tell these people how to run a wrestling company and how to do it right and stop living in 1997, then things will, shape up and everything. I got kind of excited when they were, saying about possibly the Paul Heyman coming in, and I was like, okay, if he came in, I know it's going to take time to build up, but if you just give him a chance, he will do great things. But of course, that whole thing fell through, and we're still stuck with, Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo and Hulk Hogan and Dixie Carter, and I'm just something needs to happen. I don't know what they're gonna do, but something needs to happen fast. Otherwise, that company it's not looking too bright for them, unfortunately.
Now, we've been talking about a very negative product in today's day. Let's talk about something that makes us all happy. You and me both. Let's talk about how you started watching Ring of Honor.
ROH. I started watching ROH with YouTube. I knew nothing about it, and God, I want to say it was either True Slayer video or a Bill and Doug video where they mentioned Ring of Honor. And I had never heard it before. I'm like, what is this? So I Googled it, just looked up, about the company, and that was that. And Crazy Mike mentioned it, so I looked it up again and then seen what's going on. And then the hype around the first pay-per-view came around, which was Respect is Earned. And, everyone was just hyped up about this show, and I was like, okay, whatever. And I think it was just one day I just said, I went on YouTube and I just searched Ring of Honor just to see what was going on. And that's when I watched a few of the video wires. These were like really old video wires, so they still had like Samoa Joe and, Alex Shelley and everybody on there. And I was, just say, okay, I know these guys, so let me see what they did in Ring of Honor. And then I started watching a few of the newer ones, and I was like, oh my God, these guys, they can't cut a promo or anything. They're not exciting. And I was still stuck in that mainstream mind frame, which I'm not ashamed of, but that's just how I was, and I just kind of blew it off. Saw reviews on Respect is Earned. People were saying it was a really good show. I was like, okay, whatever. 3 months later, Driven comes along. Everyone's freaking out about Driven. Driven this, Driven that. Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness is like one of the greatest matches ever. And I'm just like, oh my God, everyone's talking about this show. Not everyone on YouTube, but at least the people that I was subscribed to at the time. A lot of people were talking about it. I came home. This is when I was, I was a sophomore at ODU. I came home from school. I went to work. I came home from work, and I was flipping through the channels, and that's why I saw that it was on pay-per-view. I was like, you know what, $14.95. Let's try it out and see what's happening. I wasn't as blown away as everyone, said. They were saying it's an amazing show. I wasn't that blown away. But two things that stuck out to me was, one, Austin Aries running in there, because I knew Aries from TNA, so I was kind of curious about that. And then two, the match that Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson had. It was an amazing match. I was blown away. I was like, okay, these guys can wrestle. Why are these guys in TNA or WWE right now? Obviously, I know why now they're not, or they are now, but I know now what I didn't know then. So time goes around. I'm still, just looking up different things on YouTube about Ring of Honor. I believe at this time I ordered my first Ring of Honor DVD. I'm not sure. I know the first one that I ordered was a Supercard of Honor. I think I got it like on one of those $10 DVD sales. I got it in the mail, I think maybe like a week later, and I opened it up and I looked at the disc and I put it away. I never watched it. I didn't watch it until 2008, which I'm definitely ashamed of, because I had a great show lying on my DVD shelf that I just completely, just put aside. Anyways, here comes the build again. 3 months later, Man Up shows up. Everyone's going crazy about this. Pretty much all of my subscribers, all of the people I have subscriptions to, they're all talking about this show. I'm getting hyped up about the show because I'm starting to understand who these guys are, learn who these guys are, learn the feuds and everything. And just the fact that this was the first ever ladder match in Ring of Honor history, and they were calling it a ladder war. It was just, I don't know, it just took over to the point where I was just so excited. I took off of work that Friday, and I was just so hyped up for the show. This was actually the first night I got on Skype and actually talked to a lot of guys I talk to on a daily basis right now. True Slayer, C-Do, 9590, Dirty White Boy, Crazy Mike. And we all sat there and we all watched the show and we just had a ball, and it was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen in my life. And from that point on, I knew that Ring of Honor was going to be a product that I would want to watch pretty much anytime I could. This year was 2007. They had their biggest, as far as I'm talking about Ring of Honor, they had their biggest sale ever, which was 33%, which may not sound like a lot because they've done like 35, 45, 50 before. Yeah, but 33% back then was pretty big, and I think I bought $150 worth of stuff, and I bought they just told me things I should buy. This is when they still had great DVDs in stock. I bought, I think, Good Times, Great Memories because I wanted to see the Motor City Machine Guns in there. I bought Joe vs. Punk 2. We all know how great that is. Joe vs. Kabashi. I just bought all these gems, and I just sat there and watched it. And I'm just like, okay, this is going to be the great promotion. And it just grew from there. And then from that point on, I learned about Indys. I learned about Japanese wrestling. You know, I think just a few months later, I learned about PWG, and I became a fan of them. And you know, from just being on YouTube and learning about Ring of Honor, basically saved me for to keep watching pro wrestling because I was definitely down on it. But the fact that this came along, it definitely helped me regain my interest in pro wrestling.
Two follow-ups for that. One, when was it that Ring of Honor overtopped your love for TNA? Was that right away, or did that take time?
No, that took time. I want to say it really did not start until about late 2008. Only because, now, as soon as a Ring of Honor show comes out, I'm jumping on it, trying to get it. Whether it's, buying it or streaming it or, me downloading, I should say, because I'm not going to lie, I do download some of the shows, but I think I make up enough for it for going to the live events and buying DVDs, so I don't have any shame of that. But, I was just, I wasn't keeping up on it as much as I am now, but once that Sting thing happened in TNA, and I was just completely down, I think 2008, WWE, they had an okay year, but nothing nothing really, really exciting going on.
Jericho Michaels.
Yeah. And that's when I really started paying attention to Ring of Honor, around late 08. Yeah. And then, of course, rolling into 09, they got the TV show with HDNet. So they kind of just, further, interest me with Ring of Honor. And I just really started picking up the DVDs, watching as many of the shows, like streaming the shows, the HDNet, because I didn't have HDNet at the time. I still don't. But streaming all the shows and everything, just trying to get as much Ring of Honor in my life as possible. And like I said, it really helped. And they are definitely my favorite promotion right now. Even though I'm not so high on them at the current moment, they are still my favorite promotion.
There we go. And this guy, I don't want to jump to the questions right away, but this question relates to it. He asks, what is your favorite match in ROH history?
Favorite match in ROH history would be Rising Above 2007, Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries. I just think that match is just pro wrestling at its best. You talk about Nigel in the first 3 minutes of the match getting a concussion, bleeding like crazy from the top of his, I think his eyebrow or right below his eye or something like that.
Right above his eye.
Yeah, getting a concussion and being able to work a 20, 25-minute match with Austin Aries and going out there and having a complete classic. That match has just done it for me. I watch that match, I want to say at least every, 3 or 4 months. It's just, like I said, that match made me a fan of Austin Aries, definitely made me a fan of Nigel McGuinness, more than any Bryan Danielson match that he ever had.
Whoa.
I'm not saying that there aren't Bryan Danielson matches that are better, but this is the best match that Nigel has had, in my opinion, in Ring of Honor. I haven't seen every match, but in my opinion, this was the best match he had. And like I said, if you haven't seen that match, I know they had a match at Supercard Arena 3, which was almost just as good. It was a great match, but that Rising Above match is just that's definitely, as far as Ring of Honor goes, one of the most underrated shows I feel they have. I thought that was a fantastic show, and a lot of people didn't give it credit. But if you ever seen that show or just that match, just check it out because it's really great.
Also, to follow up, you were saying how Ring of Honor introduced you to other indies. Now in 2011, just talk a little bit about some of the other promotions that you watch. CCW, obviously.
Obviously CDW. Well, I mean, I won't lie. Even though I know it's not like that, I have the mind frame that CZW is strictly ultra violent hardcore wrestling, which I know they aren't anymore. I know that they have, like the best cup, that they have pure wrestling in there. I just still have this mind frame. Once I actually get my hands on the show and actually sit there and watch it, I will grow out of that. But CZW, just the initials, they just kind of like TNA, just like I don't want, just get it away from me right now. But obviously, Ring of Honor is out there. PWG, especially this year, I feel like they've had. I mean, right before you called, I was actually watching the PWG show. I feel they've had a fantastic year. Most of their shows have just been great. And what I like about PWG is, and I know some people may disagree, but they're not really storyline heavy. Their storylines are based on the shows that they have,
and based on the characters.
They do like DDT and All Star Weekend, and they do all stuff where they build the storyline throughout the show, which is something that I really like. And then the fact that you do this means that you can open up your roster and have more, great matches than just the ones that the storyline limits you to have.
Yeah.
So I really like PWG. I'm slowly becoming a fan of Chikara.
There you go.
Yeah, I know that's your favorite, but I went to my first Chikara show last July, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the first one I've ever seen in my life, and it was a really good show. I don't want to say that it was, great, only because they had Dragon Gate talent associated with it. I would first want to see just a pure Chikara show just to get, to get the full gist of it. But I mean, I've just watched a few shows this year. I definitely picked up King of Trios, and a lot of people don't think that I haven't watched this, but I have watched this show. It was a fantastic show, and this is something I was actually pleading that they put on internet pay-per-view, because I know a lot of people like Chikara, and it's a lot of people today complain about WWE and their PG rating and the way they do wrestling. And yeah, I mean, things are kind of weird with the company, but if you look at Chikara, they do PG, family-oriented wrestling the greatest. Like, it's just, I mean, they still have the storylines in there that still, captivate you and just make you, pay attention and everything. I mean, as you can see on Twitter, a lot of these guys, it really doesn't bother me, but a lot of these guys want to stay spoiler-free when it comes to Chikara, because it means that much to them. And then the fact that a company like this that, doesn't really do, like swearing or anything like that, or, does like this adult-oriented stuff, the fact that they can do that for fans is saying something really big. So, like I said, Chikara is something that, I'm definitely into now. I want to get more into in the future. I guess the last one will probably be Dragon Gate. Dragon Gate USA is, I have my feelings on Dragon Gate. First off, I can say if you go to a Dragon Gate USA show live, you're gonna love it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely a great time. I've been to 3. I actually got to see Bryan Danielson wrestle at one of these shows, and it was just a fantastic show. But as far as like viewing on DVD and viewing on pay-per-view, once you've seen one Dragon Gate, if you see a Dragon Gate show for the very first time, you're going to be blown away. That's how it was with Enter the Dragon 2009. I had never seen it before. It was brand new to me. I knew about Dragon Gate wrestling from Ring of Honor. I just had never seen a show where it just completely does this entire style of wrestling. And it just blew me away, and I was so excited. The next show comes around. I don't even know the name of it. I think it was Untouchable. But
yeah.
Okay, so the next show comes around. I watch that. I'm like, oh, man, the show is just as awesome. And then you go to the next show, and Fearless and Freedom Fight, and you just keep going on, and it's just like, okay, they have some decent storylines, but it's kind of like the same show over and over and over. Show. So what I kind of find out to do is, if you watch a show, just kind of, avoid the other shows. You don't really like this weekend, they're in Indianapolis, and then they're in Chicago tomorrow. There's no point in watching both of those shows. They're both going to be the same. Just watch the show that hits the better ratings and everything. But Dragon Gate, they're good. They're definitely good live. But as far as like viewing DVD, it's just it's something that you can't just continuously view, because you're just going to get bored of it, honestly.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
And it's many great indie promotions. And also, I guess this connects to one of the questions. One of the questions, this was asked by Double Cross King. Which wrestler wrestler/match/show/promotion, you can give 4 answers here, are you a fan of that doesn't get much love from other fans out there on YouTube?
All right, so let's run this down one at a time. What's the first one?
Wrestler.
Obviously, my favorite wrestler in Ring of Honor is Kenny King. I've heard way too many comparisons with Kenny King to Shelton Benjamin. Personally, I think he's a better wrestler than Shelton Benjamin. I'm not saying that Shelton Benjamin is not, because he's a great wrestler, but I think the total package, Kenny King really does it. While they're both great wrestlers, the one advantage that Kenny King has over Shelton is the fact that he can cut great promos.
Yes.
That's something Shelton, I mean, I'm not saying he's terrible, because I really can't, I can't say that I can get in front of the camera and cut a promo well, but just the fact that he's been in the business for so long, and I know he's been, taught and everything, the fact that he can't really do it just kind of gives me a little downer with him. So with Kenny King, I just feel that he doesn't get enough credit. If this guy was put on WWE, he would definitely shine. But of course, we all know that he wasn't tough enough to be in WWE. So unfortunately, he isn't Ring of Honor. But it's all good.
Match, probably from this year or just a famous one from the past few years on YouTube.
Oh my gosh, a match. Other than the Nigel McGuinness Austin Theory match. Wow. Probably, and I would take this from this year. Just because they shined so well in this match. It was one of the Atlanta shows from WrestleMania weekend. It was the Kings of Wrestling versus Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly.
Wow.
They really shined in that match. Well, even though they lost both matches that weekend. They lost the match to the Briscoes and lost the match to the Kings of Wrestling. They really, really showed out in that match. And now, the fact is they're putting on great matches every time they go out there, even with the Bravados, with
the Wolves.
Some guys from American Wolves. I think they had a match with, was it Cedric Alexander
and Caprice Coleman.
There you go. They've had great matches all up and down. And now the fact that also I was at the show, I kind of forget that they had a great match with the Young Bucks. Even though it was only like 10 minutes long. Well, that was a great match. And then they're going to have a match this coming Saturday or next Saturday with the Young Bucks and the Bravados. I mean, like I said, these guys are going to shine. They're definitely someone to look forward to in the future, not just as a tag team, but singles wrestlers as well, because Adam Cole is really good.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that Kyle O'Reilly is pretty much Davey Richards' understudy, and we all know how good Davey Richards is, that says a lot right there.
Show/promotion. I guess those are kind of the same thing.
I'm going to say, as far as the promotion, I'm going to say PWG.
Yeah.
Definitely, just because I think they've had really good show. I've enjoyed their show. I'm not going to say, and I kind of went over this with my friend yesterday. I'm not going to say they've had as many good shows as Ring of Honor, but the quality of their shows, their overall shows, I think have been better than Ring of Honor. While Ring of Honor may have an awesome match here and there for on two great matches on the show, kind of like Best in the World. 2 great matches on the show. PWG may have a show full of great matches, but it may not get that recognition because it's not Ring of Honor. It's not out there like that. So, hopefully, I think that if they get on internet pay-per-view, they would get more exposure. But hopefully they do in the future because, like I said, that's a great promotion that everyone should definitely check out.
All right, and before we move on to the non-wrestling stuff, let's finish more of these questions because there are some good ones. These are from frickin' Yaya88. What's up, Miguel? Who? What?
I said hello to him.
Oh. He says, can you recall a moment or match from WCW or WWF during the Monday Night Wars that made you say, this is why I'm a wrestling fan?
Yep. August 4th, 1997. Yes, I do know the date.
Wow.
This was on Monday Nitro. This is the actual moment that made me a fan for life. It was a match between Hollywood Hogan and Lex Luger for the WCW title. While the match was not that great because it's Lex Luger and Hulk Hogan. If you've never seen this moment, I mean, it's just something else. Obviously, we know Hollywood Hogan was with the NWO. The NWO was running completely through WCW, just destroying them. And this is when I was full on Mark. I was like, yeah, WCW, just boo NWO. NWO was going through everybody. They had the title, they spray painted and everything. And then out of the blue, they booked this match for the title with Lex Luger, considering that they were going to have a pay-per-view match like a couple days later. They booked this match. I'm sitting there watching. Lex Luger pretty much has Hulk Hogan down basically for the count. Here comes the NWO Macho Man 6 and Kevin Nash. Everyone's coming out. Luger takes everybody out. The fans are going crazy. I don't know how many fans they had there, but this was in Detroit, and everyone was going nuts. I was in my room going nuts. After Luger took everyone out, Hulk Hogan stood up. He was still dazed. Luger called for the rack. Everyone goes crazy. He puts him up in the torture rack. Hogan taps out. I don't remember at all screaming that loud, being so excited for something involving wrestling in my life. I was so excited that Luger, that anyone got the belt off of Hogan, and that was back with WCW. Of course, all the wrestlers from WCW come out from the back, and they're all celebrating. It was just a fantastic moment. Like I said, I remember the date, everything. I will never forget that moment. That right there made me a wrestling fan for life.
And a little promotional show there. If you want to see that match and/or / moment, it is available at the new WWE, the very best of WCW Monday Night Nitro. Has that match and moment in full. And as a follow-up question, how did you feel when Luger lost the belt that next pay-per-view?
I was sick, but I kind of expected this. The NWO, I think Hogan did this with like Luger and the Giant and Sting and everybody. It's just, it was something that was expected. I couldn't hate him because he was even though he's Hollywood Hogan, he was still Hogan to me. But I couldn't really hate him. But it is what it is. I can't get too upset.
Next question, also from freaking I-88. Who is the one guy you would go out of your way to make sure you watch on Monday Nitro every week?
Every week, this was probably, as far as like favorite wrestlers, I'm going to say this is number 4. Obviously, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle. Stone Cold Steve Austin, my number 4 favorite wrestler. Diamond Dallas Page.
Wow.
I was a huge DDP fan. I just thought he was the coolest. I mean, everyone said that RVD was the coolest. No. Diamond Dallas Page was the coolest wrestler. He had the swagger. He had the good-looking girl. They all came out. When he did the Diamond Cutter sign, I was in my room doing the same thing. He was just the coolest wrestler in the world, and he had the sweet Diamond Cutter, which he can hit out of nowhere. He was just an awesome wrestler, and like I said, he's definitely one of my favorites. The reason why I love pro wrestling. That guy was just, like I said, he was the coolest wrestler, and he actually had some great matches as well.
And the last question from freaking Yaya88. What is the favorite WWE show that you have attended?
Oh, wow. There have been a lot. Some that come to mind, SummerSlam 2000. I think that was the first
TLC. Yeah.
Down in North Carolina that I went to. I was at a SmackDown here in Richmond where I got to see Brock Lesnar versus Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
Which was a big deal to me because I'm a huge Legend fan. God, I don't know, but I also got to see Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels live, which, while the match was not the best, that's something that was so important to me that I got to see that. Of course, I've been to WrestleManias and everything, but probably my favorite event would be Royal Rumble 2004. I went there in Philly. Wow. Got to see Chris Benoit win the Royal Rumble, which was something that was so special to me because I was a huge Chris Benoit fan, and got to see that. You also got to see Shawn Michaels versus Triple H in that last standing match. It was just a great event. I really enjoyed it. That's something I will never forget that night right there.
For those of you that have never seen a Royal Rumble live, it is something truly special. I went to one myself. Unfortunately, the one I went to kind of sucked. For you, I know if you don't want to talk much about it, I can understand, but how did, because it relates to another thing on here from you getting on you 2007, how did the Chris Benoit thing in 2007 affect how you viewed wrestling?
It doesn't really affect the way I view wrestling, only because I separate wrestling from real life. Not to say that because they do stuff in real life, that's bad, that they shouldn't be punished or anything like that. I think what Matt Hardy is doing is crazy. Jeff Hardy got off easy. Kurt Angle, he's basically screwing up right now. I do not condone, of course I don't condone what Chris Benoit did, nor do I, forgive him or anything like that. But I only knew Chris Benoit, the wrestler. And as a wrestler, he was one of the best. When that night happened, I think I was like in a chat room or something that night, When someone came in there and said Chris Benoit died, I'm like, no way, no way. I went to WWE.com, nothing was on there. And then I went to the dirt sheets, nothing was on there. About 10 minutes later, I went back to WWE.com when they had that on there. And from that point on, I was just in shock the rest of the night. I didn't cry, I didn't say anything. I was just shocked. Actually, Eddie Guerrero's death hit me more than anything. Like for that, I was legit sad. But with Chris Benoit, I was just in shock. Of course, I was sad inside, but I really didn't show it. I was just quiet the whole night. I watched that tribute, and it was what it was. Next day, I think I went to work, and then I got a text from one of my friends who told me what went down, and it definitely disgusted me how it went down. But I didn't just jump into conclusions like, oh, he's a killer, listen, blah blah blah, or oh, he's Chris Benoit, so he's a great wrestler, so I'm just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I just, I separate the both. What he did was wrong, but I don't really. I see why WWE has outcast him from the record books and everything, but I won't forget how great of a wrestler he was. I mean, I watched a lot of WCW. His series with Booker T was one of my favorites. By far, the best of 7 series, and he was just a fantastic wrestler. Obviously, when he won the Royal Rumble, it was special to me. When he won the title at WrestleMania 20, it was just, I broke down. I saw him and Eddie Guerrero out there. I broke down and started crying because it was a special moment for me. And like I said, Chris Benoit is somebody I will never forget as a great wrestler because he was a fantastic wrestler.
Eddie's death also hit me much harder than the Benoit one did. But yeah, it's generally the way most people view the situation. And finally, this is our last question from JB0609, who asked the most favorite ROH question. Who is your least favorite YouTuber?
My least favorite YouTuber is probably myself. And the only reason I say that is because
we got a philosopher.
I kind of feel like I have a backup as well for this. I kind of feel like I am a elder statesman in this YWC, even though I don't clarify this as the wrestling community because there's too much bickering going on for us to actually be a community. I feel that I'm not on here enough to, I guess you want to say, educate people on what's going on the way that, the Truth Slayers and Bill and Doug's and Crazy Mike 1706 and everyone kind of did for me, when I jumped on the board. There's so many people out there that are doing videos on wrestling. And, the reason why I have slowed down doing videos because every time you turn on YouTube and everyone's doing reviews of, everyone's doing a review of a pay-per-view. Everyone's doing a review of a DVD. Everyone's doing unboxings. It's not much originality going on in YouTube. And I have so many ideas in my head about what I want to do to kind of jumpstart YouTube and kind of get the flow back into it, but I just haven't jumped on it. It kind of just, puts a sour taste in my mouth about myself, about, me not stepping up to the plate and kind of helping out with it. So I am my own worst enemy when it comes to YouTube. I don't like me at all when it comes to YouTube at all. Even though I am a fan of some of my videos. I think some of those that I made are classic. No pun intended, but some of those I made are classic. But I am my own worst enemy when it comes to YouTube. And as far as, maybe other people that I don't like, I really can't say because the fact that everyone does the same thing over and over and over, I really don't watch too many YouTube videos out there. There's no one that really stands out, as far as somebody I need to watch. The only person that really does, and I think this is the only person that I legit have plugged. I mean, a few people have asked me for plugs that I just went ahead and did, but the only person that has not asked me for plug, and the only one that I've actually done, a legit plug for is Sanders Robin.
Yep.
And I really enjoy it because he's educated me a lot on pro wrestling, not just indie stuff, but stuff from WWE that I may have not known about, or stuff that may have been classics and everything I just forgot about. He's been pretty much my favorite YouTuber. And I've actually met him. He's a really, really nice guy. And, yeah, definitely one of my favorite YouTubers on here right now.
No disrespect to anyone else I've ever met, but Sanders Robin is the nicest person from YouTube that I've ever met so far from all my time here. Now, let's go a little side away from wrestling for a second, because there's another side of you that I don't think a lot of people on here might know. First off, let's get to your love for some of your favorite shows from when you were a child from the 90s, like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles? Explain.
Oh crap! Do we have this much time?
Just generally say what they were and why they were important.
I was a huge fan of Power Rangers, as I said earlier. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, because they have like 27,000, entities of Power Rangers right now. But I was huge on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That was all about my childhood. I was huge on cartoons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Spider-Man. I was just a huge cartoon nut. Also with Nickelodeon, watching, all that, Keenan and Kel. Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't know a lot of people remember Snick from back in the day. That was Saturday Night Nickelodeon.
That's old school.
Yeah, all those shows used to come on there, and they were really good shows. And then, of course, like, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air just was a classic. I always watched that show when it's first running. And I don't know. I was born in the 80s, 87, 24 years old. I feel myself, I'm stuck in the 90s, Like every single morning when I wake up, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I'm watching Saved by the Bell, and like, that's something that most people don't do. Most people will turn on Sports Center or Mike and Mike in the morning. Me, I'm turning on Saved by the Bell because it's a great show, and like I said, I feel like I'm stuck in the '90s. I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon, though.
And also, would you like to say these people? Like we know, Eric is a college boy. What is your life outside of wrestling and YouTube?
I was also a college boy. I didn't say college. I said the college that I represented, which was Old Dominion University down in Norfolk, Virginia. I have a degree in sports, sports marketing and management that I'm currently seeking job opportunities with that. It's not the best field to go into. If anyone's in there right now, you might want to switch it up. But
my brother,
I do have my degree through marketing, so I do have other avenues I can go through. I've actually done some community work with the CAA. Of course, me being with Old Dominion, and of course, if you guys know about college basketball, just from this past year, Virginia Commonwealth, which is VCU, they're in the CAA, and I've done some community work. Nothing I'm being paid for, but just doing work with them. As far as like life outside of the computer and everything, I have a position as a device specialist with Verizon Wireless at the moment. Basically, I teach people how to use their phones. I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/realclassic. There's a plug for you.
Yeah.
You might see me like every week. I'll say like, oh, my class went well or something like that. That's basically, I'm teaching a class once a week about, different phones. So if you have like an Android or an iPhone or Windows phone, I basically teach people when they come to the store, different customers, on how to use their phones. And that's basically what I do every day.
So I'm just very curious about this. People come into the store and like you have like a set. This is like a set room, or is it more of an individual thing?
It all depends. So like, normal, day and everything, I'm usually helping customers out. When you're in Verizon Wireless, it's a retail location, so obviously you have sales. Me personally, I don't do any selling, so I don't have like commission or anything, or have like quotas or anything. But basically, if a customer is in there and they get a brand new phone, if they want me to show something help them with their phone right there on the spot, excuse me, I can help them, and we give them this piece of paper that they can go on the website and actually sign up for I call it a class, but we call it a workshop, a wireless workshop, and they can go in there and sign up for it. I usually do my classes on Tuesday and Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock. I do an Android class and I do an iPhone class. They can go in there and sign up, and then they come in. I'll usually look at how many people actually sign up to decide where I want to do the class, because they give me the option of actually doing it on the floor or doing it back in a meeting room that we have, pretty much like a big meeting room. If there's a lot of people, I usually take them to the meeting room because it's just that much easier. And just for an hour and a half, I just sit there and I show them a few things on the phones, and whatever questions they have, they'll just throw at me, and we kind of just learn from each other, because I don't know everything there is to know about these phones. But customer comes in there, they'll definitely give me a brain tease and everything. I'll just have to sit there and figure it out for them.
That's pretty cool. And before we get off here, I want to ask for another love that you have that you actually talk about a lot on YouTube. Just very quickly, describe how you really got this big love for basketball.
I don't really know how it started, honestly. But back in the 90s, it was just, everything was like geared towards basketball. Like, basketball was the coolest sport back in the 90s, mainly because of Michael Jordan and his whole appeal with being on Nike and Wheaties and being with McDonald's. He was just this ultimate icon. and everything generated towards basketball. Basketball in the 90s was a hot sport, and I was a big fan of it. I really wasn't a fan of any teams. I mean, I love Michael Jordan. He's the greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion. I didn't really start watching a team until the Magic came around, about 94, 95. And it was mainly because of this guy named Shaquille O'Neal. And I just thought he was the coolest guy. He had the coolest sneakers. He was really tall. He could dunk. That's all I cared about back then. And this guy was the world to me. And I just thought that team was fantastic. Even though they didn't really do much. They went to the playoffs and everything, but they didn't do much. And I just thought it was a great team. My dad, he was actually a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, he's been like that for like years, and he always wanted me to be a Lakers fan. You know, he wanted me to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which he is. I will never root for Pittsburgh ever. He wanted me to be a New York Yankees fan. I despise the New York Yankees with a passion, and he wanted me to be a Lakers fan. I never had a problem. I was just never a fan. Of course, a year or two later, after being me being a fan of the Magic, Shaq gets traded to the Lakers. And I was like, you know what? Shaq is being my favorite player. My dad wants to be a Lakers. Shaq is on the Lakers. Let me become a fan. So I kind of jumped on the Shaq bandwagon and followed him to L.A. When he's in L.A., I learned about this kid, 17 years old, being drafted to the NBA. I'm like, oh my God, that's just so cool. I didn't know anything about Kevin Garnett, being drafted. And I didn't know anything about Moses Malone. But just the fact that this guy, 17 years old, going to the NBA, that was the coolest thing to me. Obviously, this guy ended up being Kobe Bryant, and I just became this huge fan of Kobe. I had like so many posters, and every video game, like he was like the 12th man on the team. And I would just shoot him right up to the top and just score like Will with Kobe, and he would be on these TV shows like Hang Time, and he was on some other show. I forgot the name of it, but he just became this cool guy, and I just started liking him so much, and it just grew from there. As you can tell, I'm still a Lakers fan. I've been there pretty much all my life, I would say. And, I don't see myself going nowhere. Kobe is my favorite player right now. It sucks the way basketball is having to go through this lockout. They're in a bad state right now. I hope things get straight. I don't really see that happening anytime soon. At least we have football. We have baseball, so it's not too bad. We have hockey. Eric, what's up? I'm also a Capitals fan, as he knows. Basketball, it's definitely my love as far as sports goes. I cannot live without basketball. It is the number one sport I love. Basketball, baseball, MMA, that's my stuff right there.
And before we go off the air, is there anything you would like to plug? Obviously, your Twitter account, which is, again?
Twitter.com/TheRealClassic. I may not be doing YouTube videos, which obviously my YouTube is InstantClassic8. I may not be doing YouTube videos all the time, but I'm always easy to get to through my Twitter. If you just go in there and message me, it's no problem. I'll definitely get in contact with you. That's it. And hopefully I start making videos again soon. I've actually moved into my new place. I didn't have internet for a while because of Comcast, and we butted heads and everything. But I'm back up and running. Hopefully get some videos out there for you guys soon.
And we've gone quite a long time here, but I think it's been a great interview and a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Brandon, for coming on, and I'm glad to have you.
No problem. Peace.
And with that, we are out. Bye.